Man. That restream chat captcha is brutal. I think I identified like 7 motorcycles, 6 buses, 55 hamburgers, 55 fries, 55 tots. But I made it just in time. All right, so we're gonna pick up where we left off. So where did we leave off? Let me look. That was video. So we did last time, we did this log thing, and what I really wanted to do is, I guess I can go ahead and open that up. Let's me grab some reference. I really wanted to do this log in particular, streaming log reference. And also while we're here, let me open up my ZBrush Miro just in case we need it. This little guy right here, but we made a couple other ones instead. So let me open that up, and that's another thing I kind of wanted to do, and I was told it was totally fine, is to, instead of what we did last time, which was go through here and we use some megascans and we use some ZBrush guides brushes to make some bark and you know, transfer that color data. We could also do that in Substance Painter, so we'll do that real quick actually first to get something similar to this using texturing. Yeah, I think that'll work. And then maybe we'll do this, and of course I'm here to answer any questions y'all have. Assuming, let me see, restream chat. Yeah, okay, I think everything's up and running. So let's get cracking. Yes, this, and okay, let's remake this log real quick. We'll start with this one for the visible log, but we'll go into Substance Painter real quick. So let's see if I remember how to do this. Let's go in here to, it should be hard. Go in here, grab a cylinder primitive, drag it down on our canvas, go in here to edit mode. I'm going to switch temporarily over here to, you know, startup material, matte cap gray, or the matte cap metal green, or whatever it's called, just so we can see it. And this is in an initialized state. I'm just going to leave it as it is. We're going to go up here and say make Polymesh 3D. Now we can sculpt on it. In fact, let's all switch over to skin shader because we have our polyframe turned on, which is Shift F if you want to do that. Let's go down here to poly groups, and I'm going to say group by normals. There it is. I have my custom menu in here. It's a little bit faster, but I'll try and stay in these menus for the time being. Also, BI brush insert IMM primitives in M, and there's an insert cylinder in here. M on your keyboard, you can go in here and select, or you can go up here and just grab. So insert cylinder here and just drag this on. There's actually an insert cylinder, no edges, I believe. That's probably a little bit better for our purposes here. So we've inserted a cylinder. We're going to move this down like so, scale it. And we want this to flare out, right? Well, because we have no edges, that should be pretty easy to do. Let's go ahead and scale this out just a little bit. I'm going to hover over this edge with my Z modeler brush, BZM. Hover over this edge. We're going to go to scale. Hover over an edge. Go to scale. Edge loop complete, already had it selected. We're going to scale this down, and we're going to scale this up. And when we inserted that mesh, if you go over here to, brush, if we go over here to auto masking, you're going to see auto mask by mesh insert is already on. So we're going to go through here, and we're just going to kind of scooch this in a little bit. And that way, this is already masked. This isn't masked, but we do want polygroups on all these edges because I'm going to ZRemesh this in a second. So I'm going to go through here, and we'll say group by normals. See how much faster it is in my custom menu here? But of course, you already know it's right here, and you can change that max angle if you need to pick up any surfaces. So we'll control drag to unmask, and all of this looks like it's ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and ZRemesh. No, first I'm going to hit W. We're going to go into this little gear icon. Because these are all one subtool, I can easily go in here to the gear icon and just do a remesh by union, and that will do a union Boolean operation on these. So now these are sewn together. If these were separate, if I undo this and say, you know, Control Shift drag and then split hidden, or Control Shift drag over a little piece, Control Shift A to visibility grow all, split hidden, and now these are two separate things, all you would need to do is go over here to Boolean, turn on live Boolean, and then hit make Boolean mesh, and it would put out a U mesh. But it's easy enough just to have this merge down. That would be underneath merge down. All one mesh, go in here to your gear icon, and then just say remesh by union. Ding. Now, ZRemesher. We're going to go down here to, this is not great geometry to sculpt on if we want to sculpt or even bake to. So we're going to go over here to geometry, ZRemesh, and we're going to say, let's say double. You can dial in your poly count if you want to. I'm just going to say double. We're going to keep our groups, and we're going to smooth our groups down to 0. They're already smooth. It's a nice even slice through there in that Boolean. Actually, now that I say that, if we were to ZRemesh this now, it would probably do an okay job, but see how it's kind of faceted around here? Let's go ahead and hit D, which turns on dynamic subdivisions, and we're going to go down here to crease and say crease PG. It's going to crease our polygroups, and you're going to see that's the difference that this makes. We have a nice smooth result. So ZRemesher is going to build in, hopefully, a very smooth result from this. The only difference being, before I go in and Boolean this, I have to hit dynamic. Do I have to hit dynamic apply? I think I do. Dynamic apply, and then we'll say delete lower, and then I'll hit W, and we'll go in here and say remesh by union. Now we have more geometry, but our mesh is much, much smoother. So now let's go down here to ZRemesher. We'll do half now because we have more polygons. Keep groups, smooth groups down to 0, ZRemesh. And when we do that, it rebuilds the geometry. In fact, you can keep going ZRemesh half. And also a depth size down to 0. We can just get nice even quads. I think that'll be fine. ZRemesh half. There we go. So now we have kind of a game res. It looks like it's kind of having a problem here. So let's say same. Let's see. Same. Half might be a little too low, or no, that's fine. So you could use something like this as your game res. If you're not worried about poly count or anything, you can just undo back one, and this should be fine to sculpt on. If you want, let me see here. Hold on just a second. Oh. Let me see. No. Yeah, we're not streaming Maxon. I don't know which one of these is supposed to be. That's a training team. Public. Yeah, I think it's this one. All right, let's see. I'm just guessing here. And all right, let's see if that works. All right. I guess we don't really need a video capture device, but I can add one. Possibly. Nope. Guess not. Well, we lost my face. I think that's okay. That's fine. We weren't streaming to very many things. So anyways, we're back. I won't, you know what? I would say I wouldn't do this again, but it's always good as a refresher, right? So real quickly, let's see if we can speed through this. We're going to start with a cylinder primitive. We're going to go in here to make Polymesh 3D. We're going to say, I'm just going to do it in my custom menu here. Group by normals, and we're going to go in here. I'm just going to use my custom, I guess I don't have to do that. BI brush insert, IMM primitives. hit M on your keyboard, grab the cylinder with no edges, pull that out, rotate it around, scale it out, whatever the log that you're wanting to make. We're going to go do another group by normals underneath your polygroup menu. We're going to hover over an edge. We're going to say scale edge loop complete. We're going to scale this one down. We're going to say D for dynamic. We're going to say crease PG. That's under your crease menu. Actually, let's go ahead and rotate this around. There we go. And then all we got to do is say dynamic apply, geometry delete lower, W, go into the gear icon, remesh by union, half, depth size down to 0, keep groups, smooth groups down to 0, ZRemesh, and there we go. We have something sculptable. I'm also going to hit D for dynamic, and that will show us a preview of what it would look like if we subdivided. Hold on just a second here. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. And that's open. Oh, that would be why. Oh my God, Restream, you are killing me. Hold on, hold on, hold on. Oh my goodness. I don't know why it does that. Restream. Pixelogic Restream, which is absolutely log out. Why would you log me into that one when I very much logged into this one? Oh good, I get to do crosswalks again. Well, there's another one. Next, I don't see any. Cool. It is not. Okay, let's close this. Restream chat. What is going on here? Okay. I don't know if that's working or not, but good enough. So we have a log right here, and we're going to go ahead and we'll make a high res and a low res. So if we wanted to, you know, here's our dynamic preview. So if we wanted to, we can go in here to like crease level of 2, smooth subdiv of 3, and you know that's the end result. And then you can go through here. You say, you know what, what if we did a crease level of 3, smooth subdiv of 4, and oh, another thing too, we got to go in here and say crease PG. There we go. So now as we modify these, so crease level of 2, smooth subdiv of 3, crease level of 1, smooth subdiv of 2, you're going to see more or less fall off. So you can use that to kind of dial in a preview of what it would look like as you subdivide. If you like this, fine. You can go in here and say dynamic apply. Now you have real geometry. You can go in here and hold down shift to smooth and, you know, sculpt out your log like we did last time. Speaking of last time, if you want to see that, here is, you know what, if you just go here to the home, I bet, no, we want to go to my home. There we go. It should just, well, that's for me. Live stream full episodes in that playlist. You can go and check that out. There we go. Now, if we wanted to texture this as opposed to doing what we did last time, which was this, which was using megascans and, you know, megascans and capturing that with extractor brushes and going in there and using the ZBrush guides brushes to go through here and make bark. We can do that in the texture. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. So this cylinder here that has actual subdivisions here, we'll go ahead and rename this log underscore high. And again, we can go through here. We can isolate this polygroup here, or these side polygroups here. You know, go in and, you know, use a clay buildup brush or use your wood brushes or whatever, and you can add detail. If you're going to break the silhouette of this object, I would say go ahead and do this, but we can also use displacement in our texture to do that wood as well. So, you know, sculpt as much as you want. I'm going to go ahead and, you know what, I'm going to modify this a little bit, you know, around the transition of a tree. This might get sculpted out a little bit here, and I'm going to hold down shift and turn down my smooth here. So we'll use a little bit of clay buildup. We can make maybe some of this a little more uneven. I don't think things are going to get that evenly destroyed here. Hey, John. Yeah, I don't know. Streaming. Yeah, streaming was weird today. There was something weird in the setting. I tried to fix it. Hopefully I didn't mess anything up, but I'm here. Restream seems to be acting a little bit weird, but it might just be a user error on my part. But yeah, no biggie. We'll cover some funner stuff today, maybe. But I'm gonna go through here and we'll just kind of chew up this log a little bit. The bark and stuff, I think we can just handle with material IDs. We'll give that a shot. So we have this here. We'll call this our high res, and I'm gonna go ahead and, like I said, fill this with material IDs. You can go in here to Z plugin. There is a color in here. You can go in here to Z color and you can use this plugin to fill things with a color. I have a little strip that I like to use, this little poly swatches thing. So I'm gonna go pull this over here. We'll stick it over on the side. I'm gonna go out of edit mode to drop it to our canvas, and then go in here. Oop, wrong one. Drag, shoot. Sorry, wrong one. This one, drag it out. Drop out of edit mode to drop it. Go in here, drag this out, go into edit mode here, and I'm going to say C to sample, and we're just going to Control-Alt-Shift-F, which is color, fill object, and then I'm going to hit C to sample another color. I'm going to Control-Shift-Tap. You know what? Let's do all of these ends. I think they can all go in the... Well, no. Let's put these all on separate ones. So if I do this, Control-Shift, tap this. Let's say Control-Shift-F, and just in case. And then we're going to do this cap with this color, and this cap with this color. There we go. So now we've got material IDs, we've got a high res going, and we have log high. I'm going to duplicate this off, and we'll call this log low. We'll go ahead and hide this one, and let's go over here to our Z plugin menu, and we're going to do UV Master. And on this one, what we could do, if this is going to be our low res, we can just drop down to subdivision level 1 and delete higher. You could also go into like work on clone, work on that one and copy it back. But again, we don't need those higher subdivisions. So just by having this sitting here, and again, we don't need the paint on this one. We're just going to copy it from the high res. We're going to bake that. Here is our low res, and we do have polygroups. So we can say, it's not symmetrical, but we do have polygroups. We're going to say unwrap here. And then if we flatten, here's our UVs. If we want to, we can hold down Control and, hit W, hold down Control and tap, and we can go through here and we can, move these things, scale these things, whatever you want to do. Just treat it like anything else here. And you can also UV this stuff. Speaking of, let's go in here to Painter. We'll have that opening while we're doing this. You could have Painter UV this as well, but we have polygroups, so it should be nice. So we're going to go in here to, whoops. We're going to go in here to unflatten, sorry. Man, I am hitting just wrong buttons left and right, aren't I? Not unraven, not flatten. Goodness. Sorry, if I could hit the right buttons here. Well, let's go ahead and with polygroups, we're gonna hit unwrap, flatten to look at them, W, Control tap if you want to mask your polygroups and move them around, etc., etc. Unflatten, yay! And now we have a low res here. We have a high res here that we can bake to. Whew. So I'm gonna go in here. I'm just gonna dump these right on my desktop here. We're gonna say export. How can you do UDIM and ZBrush? I tried it, but I'm able to do UDIM and ZBrush. Me too. If you figure that out, let me know. I don't know how to do UDIMs and ZBrush either. So I'm going to go over here to save as file type FBX. And we're going to say log_high FBX on our desktop. Yeah, I have not had good luck. And this is the only one that's visible. I can't bring the file export options here, but it's going to be visible. We're not going to embed any maps. Man, this is all reset. I just updated. Bin, we're not going to export cameras. Okay, and then with the low one here, we're going to go in here to exports, and same deal, FBX, log high, log low, save, and visible bin. Oh, you know what? Turn on S normals. Why would that not be on? Export. I need to re-export the high. And I'll go ahead and capture this too for you. So when I say export as high, this is what it should look like. Visible, binary, smooth normals. Yes, okay. ZBrush Summit not happening this year. Also the Sculpt Off Challenge. That, I've been out of the loop a lot. Yeah, 2 questions right out of the bat. I don't have the answer to that one. I don't know anything about, kind of don't know the latest thing about any new ZBrush stuff other than getting 0.0.1 to fix some crashing issues, but I don't know anything about the ZBrush Summit this year, unfortunately. So we've exported a high, we've exported a low. Let's go in here to Substance Painter real quick. And of course, this is all new too. So let me stick this here. A lot of updates. I haven't used this computer in a while. Sure. File, new, select, desktop, low. We're not doing UV tile workflow on this one. We're just doing, and again, this is just one object, so it's just gonna have one texture set. If I was doing anything fancier, I'd probably go into another program and assign materials and smooth normals and stuff, but this should be pretty straightforward. So here is our low res. If we do want to bake our high, we can go in here to texture set settings, bake mesh maps, and select that high res from our desktop here. Normal, world space, ID, we're going to switch over to vertex color. So our Polypaint is going to be our material IDs. And everything else I think will be okay because we're only using one thing here. So we'll say bake selected textures. It's going to bake our high to our low. And now, there we go, return to painting mode. Here's our new high res. Not a whole lot going on there, but give me a second. So we're going to go in here to, well, there's 2 things. There's assets I already have downloaded and also Substance 3D assets. So if I go in here and say bark, we can look and see if there's any cool mulberry tree bark, pine bark. I want to say, what kind of wood is that? Any wood experts? I guess it doesn't really matter. We'll do bark pine. So I'm going to go ahead and hit this little download icon. Boop, boop, boop. There we go. We can go back to our assets here, and there's bark pine sitting right there. So if I go to my layers here and we say drag this on, here we go. And I don't want it applied to the top because those are the cut parts, right? So I'm going to say right click. Actually, let me see if I can make this show up. There we go. Right click, add a add a mask with color selection. We're going to say pick, and we're going to choose the red parts, and now it's only assigned to that. Now I think we can also, if this has height information, we can go in here to this display settings. No. Shader settings. Displacement, height, scale. We'd have to have height. I would need to turn it on in 2 places, right? It's actually been a while. I think we're okay. Let me see here. Height. Yeah, if this one doesn't have any height information, can I make it have height information? If I go down here, turn on height. There we go. Height was turned off. So we can turn on height. It looks like it corresponds here. So now if I hit M for material, there we go. Now I can go in here and I can say we have displacement turned on, and then tessellation, uniform subdivision count, crank that up all the way. And now, I guess we can't have that much, but we can go through there and we can kind of give ourselves a little extra bumpy on that with our displacement. So what else? We can go in here to the material. There's presets we can select, so we can do old pine bark. We can do red, we can do warm. I like old or red, or we can go in here and we can do tiling. So you can go through here and you can make this more or less tiled. You can do rotation and offsets and all that good stuff. In fact, if you didn't have good UVs, you just like auto UV'd it, you could go in here from UV projection just to do triplanar, and then that'll just like do a little triplanar projection. Honestly, that one doesn't look too bad at all. Let me see, tiling here. And again, if this one isn't doing it for you, we have, what else we got in here? Bare wood, red plain bark. Go back to our search here. Let's try this mulberry tree. That one looks kind of cool. Or a eroded pine bark. Let's try that one. It's just a candy shop. Let's see here. Assets. So if I drag this on here, again, just run one more time real quick. Right click, add mask color selection. Pick, select. You can hide this one. Go back in here. Height is already turned on. Normal's turned off this time. What was the other one? Mulberry. Try this one. I just like that pine. So let's go delete these. All right, so we got our pine here. Now, one thing I didn't consider is, does it have in here, you know what? Even if it doesn't, we can figure this out. We'll just type in wood. Or maybe stump, because it's kind of more of a decal thing than it is a, I mean, we can make do with just wood, but I guess they wouldn't have like wood rings or tree. Let's say tree, like a sliced cubic tree grate, sliced tree trunk. Hey, they do have one. Okay, we'll give that a shot. Stylized tree trunk cross section. Damaged. Yeah, let's give that a shot. So if I do a sliced tree trunk here, we could say download. And let's see what this does and how to possibly use it. Sliced tree trunk includes randomness. So here, and in fact, let's do, I just want to do a planar projection, and I want to rotate it to the top here, and I want to say right click, add a, let's do it here, right click, add a mask color selection, pick color, just this top part. Now we do need to do some work on this one. Looks like our roughness, scoot this over just a little bit here. I mean, I guess that's right. Let me see, roughness, normal, height, preset. Yeah, okay. So anyway, you can go through there and you can do this. You can also, if you can also try just like a wood, and we could just say, just like if it's a cross section here, maybe something like this. Add mask with color selection. Pick this bottom one here, and then hue, shift, saturation, normally height position. You can go through here and we can change how much height. On this one too, let me do this. Let me go in here or something. Yeah, it's like, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do a base layer here. We'll call this roughness. And we're going to set this to just roughness. Hold down Alt, tap roughness, and give this just a uniform roughness here. Manipulator. You know, that displacement might not be doing me any favors. We can hit Control D to duplicate this, I believe. There we go. we can say, we can switch this color selection to this one over here. Get rid of that one, pick this one. And then again, go back in here and yeah, okay. Also on this one, we could go in here and like change these colors around, but I think what's a little bit easier is let's take this bark pine. I'm going to throw this at the very top, and underneath this roughness too, we're going to go ahead and turn on a color. I'm just going to put on like a base dark color here. So on top of here, I'm going to do an adjustment layer. We'll call this HSL pass through. We'll switch this to pass through. We'll give this a, we'll turn everything off, I think. And then we're going to add a filter called, oh boy, I don't recognize any of this. HSL, there it is. It looks like that now. So I think, okay, good. So I can go through here and I can change the hues. We'll make this a little bit redder, a little less saturated. Let me change the lightness. So anyway, you can go through here, do all the storytelling you want. You can add dirt. And there might be even some moss in here. Yeah, we could say, hey, let's add some moss. Let's go ahead and say, we'll tile this a little bit more. And we'll go in here and say, add a black mask. And on this generator, gosh, I don't even know. If we want to do like maybe a light direction, you can go through here. So if I alt tap this, you can go through and you can change the angles. It's like, I want the moss to come from maybe upper left area. And then when you hit M, that's where it kind of starts populating here. You know, so you can kind of use that. Or if it was more of a dirt type thing and wanted to grow in the crevices, you can go in here and say, again, add a generator, dirt. And then when you crank up that dirt level, it'll just kind of populate where the dirt is, etc., etc. And then when you want to go render this, we'll just turn on iRay here. Whew. Baked cavity texture for making some of the color breakups. On this one, I don't know that I did. Again, that displacement's doing something kind of rotten here. But you know what? We can switch that. Let's go back here. I mean, we baked a... I'll look at my mesh maps in just a second. But yes, kind of. Shader, displacement, disabled. We still got, you know, height normal and stuff. So that should be fine. So now, in fact, if you want to, you can go in here and you can turn on, if you're doing subsurface scattering or something, you can go in here and turn on like shadows, you know, kind of see a little bit better. But now if we hop into iRay and let's go in here and let's swap out our environment to put this on a street, or we could put it out on the wild, glazed patio. Yeah, that's fine. We'll put it on the street. We want to raise that floor a little bit. We can go in here and we can say this Y. We can just toss that up just a tad here. Maybe knock that back. Boy, that's touchy. Can I hold down Control? Can I hold down Shift? Yeah, Shift maybe makes it a little more fine-tuned. There we go. Put that right there on the floor. And now we have our mossy pine sawn thing that we were talking about. Yay. So if I go in here to my texture sets here, and we'll switch this back to panorama. There we go. Let's go here. Mesh maps. So we do have a, we did make a curvature map that, you know, would be used for anything. I mean, our map was nothing because here's our high res. You know, so our high res didn't really have much in it. Again, if we wanted to, and we had a lot of detail in here, or if we followed like last time, I'll relink this. If we followed this, if you go to live stream, if you go to this page and you scroll down to live stream full episodes, you can see us using like megascan data to make that bark. You can do that, and then you could bake that out. In fact, let me see what we have here. Yeah, I mean, heck. Okay. Here's another thing, fun thing we can do maybe. That's one way. with very little height information. On this one, however, let's say this one is log high. We'll duplicate this off. We'll drop this down to center level 1. We'll say delete higher. I honestly don't remember. Let's turn this off. What this looks like. So let's turn on our polyframe here. If we go in here to flatten, okay, it already has UVs. If it didn't, just polygroups on, unwrap, flatten. This will have UV. So there's our log low. Rename. And exact same deal. And this time, instead of baking material IDs, we already have the albedo, or the base color, is going to be from our high-res Polypaint from our megascan. So let's go ahead and just do that. So here's our log high, and we're going to say export as log high. Again, same settings as I showed y'all earlier, which would be give me a second, editor, which would be these visible binary smooth normals. Nope. So log high. Wait for it. File exported. Yay. Log low. Export. Okay. Okay. File. New. Select. Log low. Okay. Discard. Bake mesh maps. We need to grab our high res. Bada bing. And again, I guess for material ID, go ahead and put that on vertex color as well so we can bake our Polypaint. It looks like it's not going to quite make it there. So if we go back here to our common settings, let's take that for max frontal distance out so we don't see any more red. Alrighty, bake selected. So now it's going through and baking all of our ZBrush data. Nice curvature maps, nice cavity maps, nice AO maps. Return to painting mode. Our color isn't applied. All we got to do is go in here to layers. We'll add a new one, and we'll call this color info. Let's kill this search term, and we'll look for project. We have a color map that was baked out, so we'll go ahead and drag that. So if this is just going to be color information, we can go through here and we can say color. We'll drag that right onto our base color here. So that's applied. If we want to do anything in particular with just the roughness, let's go in here to our fill layer. We'll call this roughness, and I want to look at just the roughness. I'm going to hold on Alt and tap roughness. We're going to go in here to the roughness channel, and let's do, what's the best way to do this? If we have a, we want to do a grunge? We don't want to do a grunge. We'll just do something basic. So I want it to be pretty rough, and I'm going to go through here. We're going to say add a black mask. I'm going to say add a fill, and let's, oops, well, we'll do a levels in a second, but I'm going to say add a fill. Thank you. And we do have some mesh maps over here. So we have an occlusion map that we can play around with. We have a curvature map. I think that'll do the trick. So in this fill, we'll drop in the curvature map for our roughness, and then we'll go to roughness here. It should be everything is normal. Why is this? Let's add a levels. Maybe we'll just put a base roughness in there. Huh, okay. Oh, okay, it's a mask, so it would mask nothing. Of course, that makes sense. So let's go ahead and we'll put in a base roughness here. And then to give us some breakup, we'll go in here, and in this roughness, we'll have a mask that determines it's going to go onto our cavities, and our curvature here, we'll go in here to levels, we'll kind of play around with. And again, the darker the roughness is, the shinier it's going to be. So I don't think we need a whole bunch of variation, but that's probably fine. We'll hit M on our keyboard, and there's just a tiny bit of variation in there. But, and again, if you do want to put a roughness breakup, you could drop a dirty old grunge. And let's narrow this down to textures, and then got some good dirty old grunges in here. say dirt. D-I-R-T. There we go. Yeah, something like this. And then we'll throw this into our, of course, let's hold down Alt, Roughness here. And then this is just a breakup. So if we go in here and we say, let's look at this roughness, maybe when we want to set this to, if we set it to multiply, that'll make things shinier. Might just be able to do, make sure you're in the roughness channel and drop this down. You can kind of just dial in just a little bit of breakup like that. Anyway, we have our log. It's all baked out. We've done some roughness. And just like we did last time, always feel free. You know what? I even have a smart material in here that has just simple dirt. We'll do that. And on this one, it's just like a mottled, just with the generator turned on, so you can go through here and you can just dial in some dirt if you want to, or like we were doing earlier, moss. I like those little mosses. Those are fun. Moss, and we'll go through here and we'll say, tile it up a little bit more, add a black mask, add a generator, and you don't have to use generators. You can go through here and that'll just kind of, you know, quickly dial in moss in certain areas, but if you wanted to, you just add a paint. We'll go in here to our brush, we'll say dirt, and we'll say maybe dirt 2. We can just go in here, we can just paint in, like, we got some moss hanging out, some moisture collected in this crack here, and we, you know, some moss ended up getting in there. And then maybe this side is the more shady side, depending on the world building you're doing. You know, maybe it makes more sense for this to have more moss on it or something like that. So feel free, go do your little custom. And on this too, you know, like we did last time, it's like, oh, it's not saturated enough or whatever. Or you want to saturate this more, you can go in here and, you know, change this color, do any of the presets. So we'll say, you know what, I want this to be a little more darker green. And then maybe my wood, this color isn't as saturated. So instead of doing an HSL, which does everything below it as a pass-through, let's go in here and just add a filter just to this here. And it's going to change the base color. So we're going to say HSL, and we can go through here and say, you know what, let's make that wood a little more saturated. You can adjust the hue, maybe a little more red pine, contrast with that green a little bit, lightness, darkness, etc. And then we can just hop into iRay. And like we did last time, we'll switch this over to the street. It's sitting right on the street level now. And there we go. We have our baked off cavity map, curvature map stuff. Oh, thank you, Arda. I hope this is a good stream as well. So, wood, baked, textured. We talked about it. Cool. Now, this one we don't really need anymore. The kind of sad log. This is our happy log. We'll say all high here. Oh, we don't need log low anymore. And we'll turn everything else on. Again, if you want to see how this was made, just scroll down to the live stream full episodes here. I don't have it on my art station, but there are some. This is also a place to go and check out, you know, kind of bundled live streams. Let me grab some coffee before I fall over. Excellent. Okay. Alt tab. We don't need these fibers. We don't need this hair. We need log high. We don't need the star. Oh, this is where we had it separated out from the little caps. So we had our interior caps here. I forgot we did that. I think for our purposes, let me get my reference again. If we're going to be doing this one, I'm just going to have it all one solid piece, and we can texture the inside, I believe. So let's do that. I'm going to keep the solid one. I don't need the separated one, I don't think. So we're going to delete this, delete this, delete this. And I'm going to save this real quick. Save as. Stay organized. Switch to a skin shader here so we can see a little bit better. And this one in particular doesn't have that little thing that pops out, but I don't know, I might want to keep that one. We'll see. Texture, import. I need my reference. Oop. Let's grab this one. Texture, add it to spotlight. So make sure the texture's selected, hit this little plus minus sign. Go ahead and scale this up. We'll drop that intensity down. And we can go through here and we'll just kind of position this. So we'll build a little stand. We'll put a little resin on it. It doesn't have to match perfectly. I mean, if you wanted to, you could. This head does have subdivision levels, so you could like drop down to subdivision level 1 and then go through here and just like use a big move brush. You can hold down Alt and it'll pull along the, the surface normal here. But I think this will be okay. So we'll go ahead and see that, yeah, that glass goes back pretty far, so we might lose some of it. I don't know. Let's also turn on perspective in our viewport here, and we'll just kind of line this up. And in order to kind of snap our view back, actually, you know what? Let's do this. I'll reset, hit W, reset. I'm going to scale this down just slightly. I do want to match it a little bit so I can get my guts in the right spot. I don't think it'll hurt anything if I do this with my details. Easy, easy, something like this. Now, let's go in here to movie, and we'll do all high. So, movie, timeline, show. With this sitting here, I'm going to go ahead and click that icon. That'll go ahead and store that position. So now we can go ahead and start making our other stuff. Anything break? No, we're good. So on the bottom here, we do have our star. And the reason I like having a star when I'm saving ZTools is 2 reasons. Number one, when I go to Tools Save As, it'll inherit that name, so it doesn't rename my other stuff. Also, it's just a, if I turn on transparency, it's just kind of sitting in the middle of my object here. So even though this has subdivision history and it will cause problems if I want to like do IMM brushes, I can have that one selected. And then I can go to the bottom here. Let's turn on X symmetry. I'm going to use my custom IMM menu, but you can use the BI brush insert IMM primitives if you want. If you want this one, you can have it. Let me see here, Google Drive. Also the simple color swatches thing if you want it. Boom. Share. Copy link. You can have that. That's the simple color swatches and IMM base primitives. Share. Copy link. There you go. Feel free. If you do want the, let me show you where that goes. So the simple color strip, you can throw that into wherever ZBrush is saved. See program files, max on ZBrush 2025, ZBrushes. No, sorry, what are we doing? Tools, Z Tools in here, and then just put your color swatches in there. So whenever you hit the comma key, that'll be sitting there in your Tools tab. And then for the brush, if you always want it to show up every time you start up ZBrush, that's where you can go in here to boy, I'm having a hard time today. Z Startup brush presets, throw it in there, and it'll every time you start up. Now, if you don't want it to show up, you just want it to be, you know, again, in your light box, you can just go in here to ZBrushes, toss it in there in your own custom folder or whatever. So that way when you hit comma, your tool will have the simple color swatches, your brush will have your other one, or if you have it on startup, it'll be in here and you can assign a hotkey to it. Y'all know that though. So now we can use our arrow keys, left and right arrow keys to snap back. We can do Shift Z to turn that reference back on. So if I move this, again, just arrow keys to snap this back to where it should go. Now, again, Alt E M, go grab cylinder 16, go to the bottom here. We have X symmetry turned on. I'm going to drop this on. We're going to say split mass points, and we'll switch here. I'll keep this on here because we'll do polyframe. And again, hit W, Shift Z. There we go. So now we can go hold down Alt. You can kind of scale along the axis here, and then, you know, make it a little bit longer. And again, we want this to be a little thicker at the top, thinner at the bottom. So just like we did last time, BZMZ modeler brush, hover over an edge, switch to scale edge loop complete, and we can just use our mouse, since this is so small, to go through there and just kind of match that. Same thing with the cylinder on the bottom. If you want to use an IMM, you can. If you don't, you can go in here to append cylinder. Before I get too far, I'm going to take this cylinder here and see how it has all these extra edges. Let's simplify it by going in here to Edge Loop, delete loops, and then we can hit W and we can just scale this down, move this down to the bottom. Again, if we hold down Alt, that'll maintain the thickness, but just kind of scale along that radius here. And then again, we can go back into our ZModeler brush, scale Edge Loop complete. We'll just scale this back. There's a couple different ways to do that, but something like that should work. So now, and then this one here. There we go. So we've got a base going. I'm actually going to match this to the center here. Okay, let's go ahead and do a crease. We'll do a polygroups just like we did earlier. Polygroups group by normals on all of these. And again, if it doesn't grab, like for instance, if your max angle is way up, it may not grab that angle difference. So just drop that max angle down in your, I'll show you where it is. Let's close all this stuff. Polygroups, group by normals, just change that max angle down. That'll grab more of those edges. So again, like we did last time, we can go in here and say crease PG. Now we don't have control loops in here. So if we do like crease level of 2, smooth sub of 3 on our dynamic, and again, that is underneath dynamic smooth level and then crease level. It's going to have a pretty healthy fall off. Easy enough to fix. You can just hover over a face with your ZModeler brush, BZM, inset, polygroup ball, legacy. Just kind of give yourself an extra little punch there. And you can also, go through here if you want to, bevel, edge loop complete. You can bevel this here and you can bevel this here, and you can say, again, crease PG, crease level 2, smooth sub of 3, hit D for dynamic, and then you'll have a nice little base for whatever. This one, you know what, we'll do this. We'll do inset on this edge here and this polygroup here, and then tap to get the same one. And if we want to, we can say insert multiple edge loops, keep polygroup. We can go through here and and if you wanted to turn this into a bevel, you can just go through here and say delete edge loop. Boop. There we go. There we go. Wait, delete edge loop complete. There we go. I was also doing, you can also do insert and hold down Alt. That's probably a little bit easier. But I don't think we'll need to do that. So anyway, yeah, let's do this. We'll say, yeah, we'll make this all in polygroup. Crease PG, dynamic, crease level of 2, smooth sub of 3. Yeah, that's fine. Now we're cooking. So we've got our log, we've got our base. We're gonna check our work. Looks, that's fine. Perspective's a little off, that's okay. Now, that Boolean, we gotta slice through this wood, right? And we also probably are gonna have to texture that wood. We'll burn that bridge when we come to it. So let's append a cube 3D. This is gonna be our cutter. So we're going to set this to subtractive. We're going to turn on live Boolean. You're going to see wherever I move this cube, let's if we turn on polyframe and undo that, select the cube, and then wherever I move the cube, it's going to slice through anything that's basically in its way. In this case, hold on just a second. I just need to have this up here. In this case, I just want it to slice through the wood. So I'm going to take this wood and move it down to the bottom, and then just everything else should stay the same. So if I cut through here, no, it has to happen before, forgot. Wood, top, cube, up, now. Will it leave it alone? Yeah, subtractive, live Boolean, nothing to cut. I mean, probably the easiest way just to select a log, hit Control F, say log, drop this in here, and then when we do our Boolean, we can just go into this gear icon and say Boolean, just the folder, and we can leave these other things alone. So let's again, Shift Z, move this back into place, and then as we push this back, this cube back, let's go ahead and scale it up. If you want to see it temporarily, you can just turn on polyframe. It'll give you like a view of your polyframe here, and then we can just push this back. Now this one's at a slight angle. Let's reposition here so we're a little more on the front. And I'm going to give myself a little indicator of where the front is. So I'm going to duplicate this. This is going to be kind of wacky, but I need to be like, hey, here's the midline I'm looking at for this object here. Something like that. And I'm going to rotate this around. And it's not a big deal. It's, although I guess if I want it to be between the eyes as the front, that wasn't that far off. Yeah, I guess we can leave it. We'll just have to rotate that around. So we'll go ahead and say delete this here. Yeah, the perspective's a little bit funky. This might be one of those things you need to fudge it or just kind of roll with it. But we'll go through here and we'll push back as far as we need to. So we're going to cut through here. And I'm just going to eyeball it. So here's halfway. In my reference, it looks like it's maybe 2/3. So we'll say, you know what? It is going to get rid of that extra thing, but that's fine. Now, we need resin. And we also need a cylindrical base, so let's create that. Yeah, this might be a little bit interesting. So if we want to apply this, again, with this folder selected, since this log is, you know what, I'm going to duplicate this log off. I'm going to shoot it to the top, and I'm just going to hide it. I like to keep things around. This Boolean, is it going to give us something nice to work with? I think we'll be able to live with it. So we have this result here. I'm going to go ahead and hide these, and we're just going to Boolean this folder. And I think I can project and remesh. Can I get wood on that poly group? I believe so. Okay, I think this will work. So we're going to go through here. We're going to say Boolean folder. Give that a second to process. There we go. And that's going to put out a UMesh log here. You're going to see it did give us a poly group from our other object here, but you know, it's going to be kind of crummy, and also this isn't great. We can clean this up a little bit. We can hold down Shift with the Sculptures Pro, and we'll go ahead and say, just kind of eat this thin geo away. Actually, that wasn't too bad. I overreacted. That's fine. Sometimes these things can be problematic, and I can just use Sculptures Pro to kind of eat that stuff away, but again, like I said, I think we can live with it. Okay, so we're going to take this, the folder we don't really need anymore, and I guess it has our log in it, so we don't need this one, sorry. Since we processed this log, it spit out the UMesh. We'll just go ahead and hide that folder just in case we need those pieces anymore. And then we'll go ahead and turn on Polypaint. I'm going to sample a color, maybe a dark brown. Just tap C to sample that color. We'll turn off Sculptures Pro. Control-Shift-Tap this poly group. Control-Alt-Shift-F is my color fill object. And in fact, we could just sample this. Let's try this. Let's go into Standard Clone. Let's switch this over to maybe a streaky little Alpha 60. And we can paint with that. Now, the problem is, this has a lot of polygons. This has very few polygons. So how do we even that out? Well, first, we want to project these details back to this cut mesh. So we're going to Control-Tap this point in history. That's going to store the vertex data, Polypaint, and position. We have poly groups on here, which will be nice, I think. So let's do this. We got that stored. Let's do a ZRemesh. We don't want to do half. That's going to be a lot. We'll drop that down to like 20. Depth size down to maybe 17. Keep groups, smooth groups down to 0 because they should be already smooth, although we got some rough bark on there. That's everybody. Patrick 4D. Hey, man. I wonder if I could do like a bowl of noodles on top of here. I need to get into that food game, man. So we have this. We do have two separate poly groups on here. I think we can probably clean this up and maybe live with that. Let's grab both of those. So if you Control-Shift-Click between two poly groups, that'll select both of them. And in fact, these little stray groups are causing problems too. We can go down here to poly groups, and we can say merge stray groups. There we go. And it'll kind of grab those little stray ones here. I also like to go through here. We can hold down Alt and then tap Shift, and that will kind of any areas like this. And also, let's do this. Control Shift, grab a little piece, Control Shift A, Geometry, Modify Topology, Delete Hidden. That'll get rid of any little floating pieces. So that'll give us a much better result. So anywhere you see something weird, go through and fix it and give ZRemesher a easier thing to solve. Like this one here, a really easy one is you hit your comma key, go in here to Brush, Z Modeler, and grab the Z Modeler slice, and then you can just click on this vert, click on that vert, it'll cut across, and then you can just go through here and you can like collapse an edge with your Z Modeler brush. And then hold down Alt and then tap Shift and Paint, and now you've got rid of that little weird flippy version. All these things too, you can just go through here and collapse and simplify. We're just looking for a decent low res that we can UV later and throw into Substance Painter or whatever, like we did earlier in the stream. All these little bundled up little edges in here we can go and clean up real quick. There we go. Repaint your polygroups. And again, ZRemesh is only going to do what you tell it to do. And if you have a bunch of like little weird, like if you hold down Shift and Smooth, there's those little overlapping pieces. You just go in here and collapse those. You can also run a weld point. So Geometry, Modify Topology, Weld Points. If you really want to crank it up, you can do a closed circle weld distance, and that'll go through and weld any close verts together. That can kind of help you a little bit. So if we've cleaned up our border enough, you know, something like this, let's try now ZRemesh half here. See if we can't get a slightly nicer result. That's not too bad. Look at that, look at that. All right, all right, all right. And then we're going to project our detail back, do a little bit of sculpting, do a little bit of painting, maybe a little bit of projection if we need to, but I think we'll be okay. I think I can, it's going to be behind a bunch of guts, so I'm not overly concerned. Let's try our luck. Half again. Yeah. And again, if you're getting any problematic stuff happening, just undo that and then go and see if you can't track down like, oh, you got some nasty in here. Let's alleviate the nasty. There we go. There was just a little nasty sliver in there. Half. Boop. Yeah, look at that, much better. Actually, and this kind of stuff too, if you want to go through and be like, you know what, I don't need that little extra edge, just go and collapse it, or you can repaint the polygroup. But I think we're getting a pretty decent result. I won't cry about it. Yeah, this is nice. This part here isn't too ideal, but we can, I'm not even going to bother resolving that. Okay, so we have our nice clean, and again, you can keep doing half and half and half and get yourself a nice little game res, or we can stop here. Now, we control tap those points in history. Let's turn off live Boolean so we can get that data back. So if we go out of polyframe mode here, all we got to do is project project history. We have geometry and color on, so we can project history, say always yes. That's going to give our vertex data and our polypaint data. Hit Control D to subdivide, project history, Control D to subdivide, project history, Control D to subdivide, project history. Now we have a sliced, yeah, one more. Project, there you go. Project history. There we go. So now we have a new version that is sliced. We have beautiful decent geometry on this side. And now we can go back, and when we want to paint on this, although there might be, that's fine. And again, if we just want to paint on this, we can Control Shift Tap. We can do Control Shift X to expand a little bit. That's under your visibility here. There you go. Grow and shrink is Control Shift S is shrink. Control Shift X is grow. You can grow that a little bit, but honestly, I think let's do Control Shift X maybe twice. And then now we can go through here, or we can just mask this. If you hit W and then Control Tap this polygroup, or Control Shift Tap that polygroup, Control Mask, bring everything back and invert it. Pick your poison. Yeah, that should work. So now if we had, oh, you know what? I bet we do. Let's go in here to texture. We got wood. You know what you could do too? I won't do this, but you could go into Substance Painter, have a plane. One of their sample projects is just a plane. You can drop any material on there and export your base maps or your color map, basically, and just import that as an image as well. So a little back and forth. Goodness. You know what we could also do? Let's try this. Let's go in here to, if I have this set up correctly, open XMD Toolbox. Hey, it worked. Let's go in here to textures and let's do a search for wood. What do we got? Yeah, that Widow 8. Let's see, hover over this. I think that Widow 8 will work. Maybe this one will work too. Let's try it. Double click that. That'll load up the texture, so that way you can kind of search. And we'll go in here, we have it selected. Couple different ways we can apply this. We can switch this off. Let's, we clone our standard brush yet? Yeah, so we cloned our standard brush. That's just to kind of leave your standard brush alone. You could also do this, BPA, that's your standard brush with just RGB turned on. We'll switch this to drag rect. We'll grab that texture, and then you can just drag rect this texture on. And again, we have this unmasked, so it's only going to drag rect on here, and then we can just pop that in there. Now, obviously, kind of this goes into storytelling. It's like, well, do we want this to be like, oh, it was found outside and it was faded, or it's been faded underneath the science building lights for years and years and years, and then the inside is a little fresher because it's next to resin. This might actually make sense. If you want it to just kind of be a little more even, I'm going to go in here to masking, turn off view mask so I can see that a little bit better. And then with this unmasked, we can go in here to Polypaint, and we can say adjust colors. And then with just this unmasked portion, we can go over here and we can say, you know what, let's drop that saturation just a little bit. HSV, we can go from the reds to maybe a little more greeny. We can even tint it if we want to. RGB intensity, yeah, that's fine. RGB contrast, no. So something like that. You can kind of even it out a little bit. Hit OK. Control drag to unmask. There we go. So now we got kind of some wood back behind. And again, feel free to, what did we do? You could also like add this to Spotlight and paint through it. I think this worked okay. So we got, here's our base. Here's this. Now we need to make the resin part, right? So probably append a cylinder, because that's what kind of what we started with the log, so it should line up already pretty good. Yeah, this might just work. So let's try it. Hey, punching ball, glad you can make it. I had some weird restream stuff, but it seems to be working out. So now this is going to be our resin. Now I'm not exactly sure if we want to do like a case of resin with thin glass with this kind of sitting in it, or if we want to do solid resin. That'll kind of depend on the renderer, but whatever. We'll just do solid for now. So we're going to go through here. We're going to kind of line this up. I'm going to make it a little smaller here so it kind of fits into that wood, and we'll kind of fudge it a little bit this direction. Boop. And remember, on this one, we kind of sucked in the edges, so we can do the exact same thing here. We can go into the gear icon, maybe do a deformer, Control-Alt, drag over these. We can hold down Alt and just pull along those normals there and just kind of, again, suck that in the sides there, kind of thin out the waist. There we go. And now, one more time, let's go ahead and say, do a group by normals underneath your polygroup menu, and we'll say crease PG. I don't think we'll be sculpting up here, so I think this might be fine. I am going to soften this. We could do this where you could, again, crease level of 2, smooth set of 3 with dynamic turned on, and that'll give you a little fall off. I kind of want to control that a little bit more, so let's do this. Inset polygroup all legacy. I'm going to put in a little control loop here, just tap to get the same distance, and then bevel, edge loop complete. And we'll put in a bevel. Now, if you wanted to have even more control, or if you're doing like nanite modeling, where it's like, hey, if I do a crease PG and dynamic and crease level of 1, maybe, I'll get a softer fall off. But you can also do something like this, where you go in here and say insert multiple edge loops, interactive elevation. You can just pull and give yourself more resolution this way. Let's go ahead and say uncrease all. That way you don't use any creasing. You just literally go in here and just build in the geometry you need to soften that out. I don't know. That might work fine. So we'll just hit D for dynamic. We're not going to use any crease level or anything like that. Just uncrease all. And there's our resin tank. Now we need to start making eyeballs. I'm going to use my custom brush that I sent out earlier. So we're going to go in here to 16. And on my YouTube channel, I'll put those links in the description. So we'll turn on X symmetry here. Again, this just has dynamic turned on, so we don't need to use our star. We can just literally use this. So we'll do Shift Z, snap that back into place. We'll put our eyeballs where they're supposed to go. And then this one, they need to be kind of sitting just inside that tank here. So let's go ahead and say underneath your subtool split menu is split mask points. I'm going to turn on transparency here. Again, I think that'll be close enough. Yeah. I think that's going to have to work. I think that'll be fine. So let's put on polyframe here and let's match up just at least the direction of the eyes. So it's at the back of the pivots now. Let's hold down Alt and go here. And also let's turn on LSim with dynamic off. That'll allow us to kind of move, scale, and rotate on the local axes of these objects. We'll turn perspective back on. And again, we're going to kind of rotate this. And I'm considering we can do cartoony guts, and then we can do like hyper realistic guts. I'll do cartoony for now. I might revisit this. We can use like scan data eyes or something and get something really gross going on. That might actually be funner. So something like this. And then if you did want to do more cartoony eyes, let's do Shift D to turn off dynamic. This would be like my Earthworm Jim, which I think I have. Yeah, so if you want to see like, oh wait, this is 2018. You know, I want to say, I don't know. There might be somewhere in there if you want to go and dig through here. There's tutorials all over this thing for those different objects. So there might be a tutorial for that Earthworm Jim. But anyway, we'll go through our ZModeler brush, polygroup, polyloop, be here. Grab these ones, Control Shift Tap, Control Shift Drag, delete hidden, and then I'm going to do a display properties, flip. So I can go on the inside and say close convex hull. We can pull in here like so, Control Shift Tap, Control W, and then we'll say flip again. And then we need an iris, right? I think we just steal that geometry. So we'll duplicate this off, Alt, Control Shift Tab, Geometry Modify Topology, delete hidden, ZModeler brush. You know what? We'll scooch this up a little bit. There we go. ZModeler, QMesh, Polygroup All. We'll give ourselves a little bit of thickness here. And again, if you want to, you do the old crease PG, crease level 2, smooth subdiv of 3. Give yourself a nice little fall off here. We'll turn off the resin tank for now. Here, again, we'll say crease PG, 2, 3, and then we'll have some eyeballs kind of sitting there. Ready for texturing. If you did want to have something separate to texture, again, just duplicate this off, Control Shift Tap, delete hidden, Q mesh out a little bit, whatever. You're good to go. What else we need? We need a heart with some tubes. We need some ribs. We need some guts. We need some brains. Now, and the brains are kind of just pushed up against that, isn't it? Let me turn this back on. How much room, how much wiggle room we got? Not a lot. Not a lot. These eyes look a little big too. So here's what we're going to do. Move multiple. We'll turn off this resin tank. Control Shift Drag over just the eyeballs. We still have LSim with dynamic turned on. I'm going to scale these eyeballs down a bit. Yeah, that'll give us a little more wiggle room, a little more accurate to our, just down just a tad, out just a tad. Let me see if we can, I just want to, that's fine. So anyway, we can move multiple subtools like that. Okay, so Krang, that one I do remember. Although I don't know that he's actually visible on here. This one, it's Lumpy Space Princess, but we also did a Krang with brains, and I think we can do a nice easy brain. So where do our easy brains need to sit? Right behind the eyes. It's kind of a, I guess I can, it's kind of like just a half cylinder sitting there. We don't need to get too fancy with that, but we can. If I want to duplicate this cylinder off here, and we'll do Shift D, and I'm going to say, hell, we'll be a little sloppy. We'll go in here to knife curve, and we'll say, slice that off here. Solo mode, hit W, scale this down a little bit so that it's behind the eyes here. And again, we can be totally sloppy. And the eyes can kind of be maybe sitting in the brain a little bit. And then it's going to be cut off here. Again, we'll just use knife curve to kind of... And then hit Control W. I don't think we need to ZRemesh this in any real meaningful way. Geometry modify topology, mirror and weld across the X. ZRemesh, same. Depth size down to 0 for nice even quads. If it has an error and it's like, I don't like this geometry very much, 9 times out of 10, just grab a little piece of it. So we have slice selected. Hit Control again. That'll switch over to visibility temporarily. Control Shift A, geometry modify topology, delete hidden. It'll delete any little weird floating gremlins, and now when you ZRemesh, it should work just fine. Pro tip. Now, we need more resolution. We have nice even quads, which is nice. I'm going to go ahead and hit Control D. We can also go into our deformation, do a little polish or whatever, make that nicer. And now let's see if we can't do dynamics. We'll make some brains here. Let's scale this down because we're going to be expanding a bit. So we're going to say expand on... Let's see how this works. Expand, amount, run simulation. Whoa. Gravity off, run simulation. Okay, that'll give us some like little wrinklies. We can also do this. Let's turn off X symmetry, go to unmesh, mesh center. We can, it's right now, we just have regular old transpose. Boring. BTA is transpose cloth, and now when I transpose cloth, it will have these options built in. So if we want to say, you know, firmness of 1, get a lot of leeway with these verts, or if we want more resolution, remember to hit Control D to subdivide one more time. And now when we're doing our transposing, it's going to go through here and use this expand to kind of give us that brainy look. But I don't think we need that much. We'll say delete higher. Subdivision 2 seem to be treating us good. Let's see. Run simulation. Run a little polish by feature. I mean, and we could also just go in here and just sculpt in brains. That might actually be funner, honestly. But I was hoping to do something like, I don't know, fancy or something. But I don't know. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And then sometimes what'll happen is like 2 days later, I'll be like, oh, you had the wrong setting, or you know what you should have done. And then I'll be like, such an idiot. But anyway, however you want to make brains, go for it. We can also just hit Control D. Let's switch over to something we can see. Let's go into solo mode here. Let's use like our GeoSoft brush from ZBrush Guides. We'll turn off X symmetry and we'll do a little smooth pass on here. And then as we go through, maybe inflate might be a good one. So this is like bespoke brains. This is if, you know, we can use dynamics on our brushes as well. But I'm going to go through here. I'm going to try to get rid of these hard edges here just by smoothing, or, you know, use your deformers. There we go. So this is our brain mass. And then through here, we'll hit Control D one more time. We can go through here and be like, hey, again, with our, let's see how the soft forms brush works on this stuff here. Crank that intensity way up. What the heck? Not way up. There we go. So now as we go through here, we can start dialing in little brain squiggles. And not a smooth brain. All these little wrinkles is where we hold our smarts. So you can see I don't have that many wrinkles because of the way that I use words. But this one has more wrinkles than I do. So now we can go through here and do our little Mars attacks, you know, brains. And again, we could follow back up with some cloth brushes, or, you know, do an expand on this one and see what it does. But this is just a way for you to kind of control exactly where your little lobes are and whatnot that goes on with brain stuff. And then if you want to be very particular, you can go in here with like your clay buildup, clay tubes or whatever, and go in here and like really hand massage these. In our case, I think maybe just a little inflate here. And in fact, so we have expand turned on. We could go in here to our brush here. Let's see. Is there a texture pattern that you can use as a surface to mask and let the rest expand for the brain? Yeah, we could do that. Yeah, like the new max on noises. It might be like mask this and then expand through that mask and get yourself a brain thing. That's a good point. Oh, what do you enjoy most about doing 3D art characters? Yeah, I think so. I like doing things with a little bit of personality. Although really like anything, storytelling, it's really about like storytelling, and like if you're doing a prop, there's a ton of really fun, cool storytelling you can do with it. Pretty much anything you make. So really, I like making a lot of stuff. I've done some prop work recently that was really fun. And it was like mundane prop stuff too. It wasn't like anything crazy. It was just kind of fun to go in and, you know, make things and try different techniques and different tools and see what works. But again, we still have cloth here. One thing we could also try if we want to kind of, there's contrast brushes, BC, contrast delta, contrast target. So we'll do contrast target. You can go through here and you can like increase the contrast of the stuff, but you can also do like with inflate, go in here to surface, elasticity, simulation iteration. So while we're using the inflate brush, it'll actually be treated more like a cloth brush here. Even your smooth brush, you can turn that on, but I think we're okay. But going back to masking, you could also try kind of like what you were saying is, you know, you could do the surface noise, and if you have detail, go in here and say maybe like mask by cavity, and then, you know, expand through that. I don't think we need that much geometry. You know, that's kind of like a little contrasty thing to do. Kind of enhance your brain wrinkles and stuff, and then you can go back in here again and, you know, do a little bit of cleanup work, or, you know, make your brains all brainy. This one, that effect, you know what? Didn't quite do it for me, but I'm just going to go in really quickly, and I'm going to turn off for my inflate brush simulation iterations because I just want a simple inflate. And then, you know, let's do this. Deformation, polish by feature, close circle so we can maintain our volumes. I'm just going to go through here and just inflate these little brain wrinkles so they're really pressed up against each other. And now if I was going to bake this, that might be a little problematic for baking, but for just rendering purposes, totally fine, I think. Let's put a little subsurface scattering on there and call it a day. I think that'll work okay. So we got a little brain here. Really quickly, I'm just going to block out. You know, we'll Alt-tap the base, turn on X symmetry, Alt-E-M, grab my custom menu that I sent out earlier. We'll grab a heart, split mask points underneath your subtool split menu. We'll do a very quick, you know, heart shape. And that's off a little bit in my reference to, you know, I think that's right down the middle. This has like livers and like oh, I guess I'm just looking at something you're not. Heart down the middle, 2 tubes, kidneys, but also kind of liver colored. I don't know what the hell that little thing is. These look like kidneys to me, but they're kind of off over to the side. I don't know. They're little goopy bits. So I don't know, we'll just roll with it. For the heart, that should be pretty easy. We'll just go through here. We have dynamic turned on, so we'll do Shift D. If we want to sculpt on this, we don't want those polarized edges. Just ZRemesh same, depth size down to 0. Boop, there we go. And we're off to the races. So Control D, and we'll go through here and we'll put in those tubes. They're not lined up perfectly, but again, I can always move them around. I'm just kind of putting in landmarks basically that we can use. And then looks like we're a little bit lumpier over on the sides here. And then again, maybe Damien standard. Kind of go through here. We'll turn off X symmetry, and it kind of cuts through here, and it has some veins. So something like this. Actually, these look a lot less pronounced in the concept here. So we'll push those back down. Something like this is where the tubes plug in. Aortas or whatever. Yeah, that's about right. And again, Damien standard or soft brush or Dam standard 02 to kind of go through there and just cut in details. So we'll hit Control D and we'll go through here. We'll just kind of punch in some volumes here. We'll put this back to 5. I think that was actually working okay. So again, just working on primary volumes for our heart, and then we'll put veins on top of it. We can do veins as like an IMM brush. I'll show you how to do that real quick, but probably just sculpting it in is fine. I don't think we need veins sitting on top for this particular work. So if we want to do veins, this has subdivision levels now, but we can tap something that doesn't have subdivision levels or go back to our star that's catching our name. BC brush curve tube. And if you use this out of the gate, it's probably not going to work that great for snapping to a surface. Go in here to picker, go in here to orientation and depth, say continuous orientation, continuous Z, and now when you use this, you can go through here and you can just, you know, wrap or project this curve onto the surface. But like I said, I don't think we're going to need that. So we'll do Shift Z, we'll position this, turn on perspective. The heart is kind of sitting. That's fine. We'll do this. I'm just going to kind of scooch this over a little bit. We'll massage the shape just a tad. Let's go over here and oh my gosh, Q, thank you. Stop. Bigger heart here. And yeah, close enough. So if I want to put those veins exactly on there, let's make sure we have enough resolution. I'm going to go into my standard brush. We're going to go into brush samples, spotlight projection, and we're just going to literally paint that with RGB on here. A little hard to see, so we can go in here with our RGB, turn that down, color fill object with white. We can just knock that back a little bit. You could also do render, fade opacity, but this is also fine. So here we can kind of see, this is where our veins go. We'll switch back to Z-add, and I don't even think we need, maybe the lazy radius I don't think we need. We can go thick to thin. So here's thick to kind of thin here, and then yeah, it kind of branches off this way. Let's hit Control D one more time, just a little more oomph here. And just like we did with the log earlier, we could have low reses and high reses and go in there and paint this up in Substance Painter, or we could just Polypaint it like we did in the previous live stream, all that good stuff. But now we've got little veins. And get your heart reference out, and you put in like little fatty lobes and reds and blues and yellows and greens and mottling to, you know, kind of make that sing. Might get around to that at some point. So much stuff to do this month. I hate it. Okay, so we got the heart going. So just as kind of placeholder, we'll just go ahead and say, yeah, that's fine. We'll just leave it alone for now. So we got brains, we got heart. We need to do the tubes coming out. That should be pretty easy. Again, this has subdivision level, so let's go back to our star. X symmetry is turned on. I'm going to grab, I have a bend curve that's specifically made for this type of work. So essentially, I can just drag on a tube like this. It's going to inherit the direction of that tube, and then I can say, you know, split mass points, and then go in here and do a gear icon bend curve, and we can go through here. We'll add a little bit of resolution here, so now I can go through here, be like, hey, I want to bend this curve. I want it to go, you know, you can go thick to thin. You can grab this one. You can scale it up, scale it down. You can go through here and you can like, you know, again, scale it up, scale it down, twist, squeeze, all sorts of cool stuff you can do. Just a quick, easy way to kind of do that work. Anyway, D for dynamic. We'll sculpt on that later a little bit maybe. Actually, we'll do it now. Dynamic apply, because it looks like it has some slight ribbing. So, I mean, you could subdivision model that in, but I think for our purposes, we'll just go through here and we'll just do a little bit of, just a little bit of soft. And the other cool thing too is we're doing a lot of sculpting, right? And if you're ever like, I wish it was more contrasty, remember you can use your contrast target, contrast delta brushes, and I'll show you something else cool you might be able to do with your history and adjust last. So we've gone through here, we've done a bunch of brush strokes, and we want to make the contrast a little heavier on all of these strokes. Go back through your history to where you first started, just drag that line back, control tap that point in history, and then go all the way forward, and then when you do adjust last, you can go through here and you can kind of dial in how much you want. So that's a cool little thing. What else? What else? What else? Alt tap here, Alt EM. We'll just grab a sphere. Split mass points. whatever the hell these things are. Oh, BTC. I'm going to go to Transpose Classic. I'm a classic ZBrush user. Classy also. We'll push this in here. We'll kind of match these overall shapes. And again, we'll turn on LSIM with dynamic off so we can scale on that local axis here. They're about in here. Now, and they're kind of sitting back behind the heart a little bit. And they're kind of maybe curved around, kind of like little raisins. Now these things do have tubes. What you can do, we'll do Shift D to turn that off, and again we'll do ZRemesh half to upsize down to 0 to get better geometry. But instead of subdividing, you could also go in here and just Dynamesh, you know, just smooth this out and be like, hey, we're just working with Dynamesh. And BSH for the snake hook brush, you can turn on Sculptors Pro. You can literally go in here and just pull tubes out of this thing. So that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. When this, like this little stuff right here, you know, you don't have to be fancy with IMM brushes or anything. And if you want a little fancier, you can go BS Snake Sphere. You can use this to kind of pull out a sphere here. Now you can see it's kind of coming at me a little bit. If you go to the brush modifiers, I want to say if you crank that down to 0, it'll follow more your brush stroke. If you turn it up to 100, it wants to like come at you. You know, so just keep that in your back pocket. We'll put that down to 0, and we'll kind of make our brush size a little small. There we go. And then again, just control drag to redynamesh, whatever, who cares? And now you've got a little tube. And if you want, like, I want to be able to sculpt on this better, have subdivisions, no problem. And if you had detail, just remember, it's like, well, I already sculpted all this beautiful detail on here. No problem. Just control tap to store that point in history, ZRemesh half. Give yourself new topology, and then project history, Control D, project history, and now you're back where you started. You can go through here with your pinch brush. We'll turn on elasticity, simulation iterations up. We'll go through here and we'll make this a little more wrinkly. Turn off expand. I am done with you, expand. Or not. Let's go through here and just carve this in. Oh, that was another thing too we were going to talk about. Surface noise. I want to say in the noise plug. Can I bring this up? Yeah. Max on noise. Was there like a nice brainy one in here? I bet there is. Oh, you know where I might have it? My ZBrush. Let's see, Control F, noise. Because sometimes what I'll do is I'll take notes and have images, but honestly, I don't think I do. What is this stuff? 2023. I don't think it was 2023. 2024, max on noise. Did I save it? Yeah, I don't know. I should have images of all these noises, but you could go in here and say, okay, yes, I want to add surface noise to this. Let's go ahead and crank up that strength. Let's turn off mix basic noise, plug-in scale. Strength? Yeah, I guess that's right. It's basic noise. It's kind of doing something weird. I was going to show you. Let's see. Let's try something else. Booyah. Think. Noise plug. 3D. I mean, heck, in fact, if we turn off noise plug and we just go in here to basic noise, turn that strength way down. You can also go in here and kind of play around with this, get some nice noise going. We can say OK, and then instead of using this, you know, applying this, we can say mask by noise. Control tab to invert that, and then like we were talking about earlier, you could go through here and expand and run the simulation through your masking. So I don't know, use that to your advantage. Oh yeah, yeah, you could also inflate through that. So deformation inflate through noise as well, for sure. Good. Walnut brain. That's what my dog has. I might have one too. Good. I'm hoping these streams can unlock some brain wrinkles. Yes, spotlight projection is good. Thank you, Hamatan. Do you use a Cintiq for sculpting and or a mouse and a keyboard? I have a keyboard and a Intuos Pro tablet. Nothing fancy. Cool. I love you too, Live 3D Prince. Anyone else recommend coming? You're very quiet. Let me see. Am I talking loud enough? Beep boop. Maybe my mic isn't close enough to my mouth. Testing. I'm getting into the yellow, so it's kind of where I want to keep it. Sorry about that. Let me see. Or I'm also maybe, well, no, I've got this cranked up. Let me do this. Mic. Up. Hey, this better? More? Less? Testing, testing. I'm in the yellow. I don't know. I really don't. Sorry about that. Cool. You release that Miro board? Is that just for private? This one's just for my private use, and it has some paid content on there. I mean, I don't mind going and dipping in here and being like, hey, let's talk about, you know, some stuff in here. But yeah, in order for me to release it, I don't know. I'd have to think about that too hard. So I also might not be talking towards the mic. That's my problem. Sorry about that. Cool. All right. So we have our little weird wrinkly things on our little weird raisins on the side. We have a little goober poking out the bottom here. We'll just do that real quick. I mean, we're just using spheres here. We'll say split mask points, turn off X symmetry, just grab this. Control Shift. We'll switch to select rectangle, delete hidden, ZRemesh half, depth size down to 0. And we'll hit W, scale along that surface normal, BTC, transpose classic. There we go. And we'll put a little goopy peanut just kind of poking out here. And again, I'm just eyeballing it for now. We can match the reference again using Spotlight, but for now I think we'll be fine just kind of going through here. We'll do Shift D, Control D. There we go. So here's our little peanut shape here. And again, we could go through here. I'm going to do a deformation deflate, just inflate negative value, and then go back in here with my inflate brush, and we'll put a little nodule on either side there. Something like that. And then, in fact, these are very similar to the shapes, like the little kidney bean shape. So I'm going to control drag. Well, we hit divide, didn't we? We'll say delete lower, control drag this out. We'll say split mask points. We can alt tap this one, hit reconstruct to get that subdivision back if you want. And then on this one, we'll hit reconstruct as well. So now for the kidney bean shape, I'm just going to smooth this out. Deformation inflate. And let's hit Shift Z, push this back into view so I can at least say what scale this might be relative to the other objects here. Something maybe this big. So here's our little kidneys. Inflate, deflate here. Like so. And again, in the concept, they're kind of hugging this piece here-ish. There's one kind of, actually it's more like this. Here. And then control drag off a copy. You know what, we'll hit delete higher. We don't need that subdivision here. And then there's another one over here, and this one kind of just sitting on the top. I wonder if these are like adrenal glands. Which I know about from Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Okay, we got all our goopy things. Now we just need our X symmetries turned on. We need ribs, and they're kind of flat. So let's do this. Let's go in here with just a cube. I'm going to pull out a cube here, and we'll push back in. We'll say split mask points, Shift D to turn that off. I'm going to rotate this cube around. Shift Z, we'll put this back in so we can kind of get some semblance of how these ribs should go, at least the origin and the end point of these ribs. No curve yet, but I think we can add that in. So we've got the basic shape. I'm going to thin it out just a tad here, and then we'll go through here and we'll say, I mean, you could do this, insert multiple edge loops, keep polygroup, and you just go in and go and pull this in, and then you might be able to go in here and say, give me a little bend curve and pull this out. Yeah, that'll work. I was going to show you some other ways, but I think that works just dandy. Here, so we got that little curvature shape. We can kind of match that a little better. Again, we can also like scale it down on this end and scale it up on this end here. If you're having a hard time seeing, we can turn this down a little bit so you can kind of see what we're doing. If we like this, control drag up, control drag down. Yay. All right, and now if you do want to keep these ends a little more cut, we can hold down Alt and just tap with our Z modeler brush, BZM, and then let go and just keep tapping Alt to give you a new polygroup. That allows us to do is go in here and say crease PG, and like we've been doing, turn on dynamic, crease level 2, smooth slit of a 3, and then for everybody in the YouTube comments, you're going too fast, you're not showing me enough. I know. While I'm doing it, I know. I'm making you mad, but if you do want to go to my YouTube channel, there is a intro to ZBrush new and updated right here, and that will take you through everything I'm doing. You can kind of go through slow and bit by bit and kind of in a linear fashion, as well as on my ArtStation page. If you scroll all the way up, here's everything. Here's ZBrush What's New, Real Illusion Character Creator, live streams, presentations, and right here, intro to ZBrush, and then all the What's New videos. So check those out if you want more resources. Lower the noise scale, is that? Yeah, that was probably it. When I went in and did the scale on the regular noise, I guess that's a good way to look at it, is if you're having a problem with the noise and you're like, man, I just can't find it, just keep this noise scale on, go in here and kind of dial this in, and then I think if you just kind of use this, you can use this as kind of a guide to be like, hey, noise should be about here-ish maybe, and then if you turn on your noise plug with, granite here, let's see, and then we'll turn off mix basic noise, plug-in scale, noise scale, mix basic noise, plug-in scale. Yeah, that seems to work a little bit better. So you can use your plug-in scale to kind of, because again, it can be touchy and you don't know if it's too big or too small. But anyway, you can hit OK, and then again, apply to mesh or mask by noise. This doesn't have a lot of resolution, so you're not going to get much out of that. Let's widen these up a little bit. I'm going to go here. I'm just going to kind of do this, and then we'll come back in here. I'm going to do, so if I do this here, I'm going to say, it's going to get rid of my group by normals, isn't it? I'm going to grab this one, Control-Shift-A, mask and invert, and then pull down. Another thing you can do, in this new version of ZBrush, well, I don't remember what version it was, but you can control drag over a little piece, and then, what is this? Control-Shift. I thought I had a hotkey for it. Masking, grow all. There we go. So you can, it's just mask a little piece. I thought I had that. So Control All, grow all. I'm going to Control Alt, tap, and then I'm going to say Control Alt that. So now I can just have a little hotkey. So I can mask over a little piece, do your hotkey, and then I'll just mask it, and then you can just Control Tap to invert it. Oh, and then we got guts. If we're going to do a pile of guts, the brains were just kind of brain folds. Guts are a little bit different. Those are like a mass of intertangled things. What's the best way to go about doing that? Let's do this. Let's turn everything on. Let's take our resin tank here, duplicate it off. I'm going to slice off, let's do Shift-D. Here, I'm going to say geometry modify topology, delete hidden, Control W. I'm going to Q mesh, polygroup all inwards, and then display properties flip. We went over that earlier. So now I've got like a little bucket that I can catch my guts in. Let me think. B, C, a couple different ways we can do this. I'm going to try curve flat. X symmetry turned off, and I'm just going to do guts. Okay, ta-da! No, we're not done yet. Tap off to get rid of that curve. If you don't have that, let's go. I'll show you where it is. Stroke, which is what I feel like I'm having this morning. curve functions, curve. I hate that. There's other preference where you can say, hey, on the left side, allow me to have multiple things open. I don't feel like finding it. Stroke. There we go. Getting rid of those curves. You can go in here, curve mode, or sorry, under the curve menu and hit delete. No, curve functions, hit delete. Or you can tap off. So now we have a pile of guts, right? And we're going to say split mass points. And we're going to turn off everything except for our new bucket and our guts. Now, what I'm hoping is, let's go in here, just for visibility, visuals. Let's go in here to geometry, dynamic. Let's, we'll keep one smooth on. And then we're going to go in here to thickness, and we're going to make this kind of just square. Also smoothness up to 1. So they're nice. It's just basically a nice pile of guts, but they're overlapping, right? Let's try this. Let's move this into place. Let's go to our dynamics. Let's turn off expand. Turn on gravity. Turn on collision volume. Turn down inflate. Turn up the resolution. Turn on self collision. Turn off floor collision. Run. Yeah, that might work. And then it'll just go through and collide with the ground eventually. And then start spilling out because there's not a lot of resolution to capture, but honestly, I think this will kind of work. Let's go back here to smoothness, turn that down. So up 100, down to 0, maybe somewhere I guess down to 0 is better. So now we have a bunch of intestines kind of sitting in a pile, and I can duplicate this and rotate it. So I think this might work. So now, this isn't real. So if I turn off dynamic, you're going to see really it's just a jumble of this. But when we turn on dynamic, number one, it smooths it once, and it also gives us thickness at, 0.6, whatever. If we like this result, we can say apply, and now it's real geometry. I'm going to hit control. I want to find. I was going to say I could find the end caps, but I think this will work fine. So I'm going to do Control W, make this all one polygroup. I'm going to get rid of the creasing because I don't want cube guts, right? We're going to say uncrease all. I'm going to hit D for dynamic again, and it's going to inflate it because it has thickness turned on. We're going to turn thickness off. We're going to turn smooth subdiv up to 2 here. And let's go in here and say polish by feature open circle a couple times, and then go in here and inflate, and that will kind of give us maybe don't polish by feature. Let's try maybe polish by feature close circle and maintain our volumes, and then go back in here with deformation inflate. That'll kind of give us, I don't know. Let's try it. The bucket will turn off. I said we'll turn off. Transparency, we'll hit W. We'll stuff this down at the bottom. We can use our move brush to kind of make that fit. We can hold down Control and drag up, make a copy. We'll just rotate this around here. There we go. So we got a little pile of guts. And let's go in here with our move brush. We'll just do a little finesse work here. Let's merge this. Oh wait, we don't need to merge it down. I just need this to work. There we go. If you did want to, you can hold down, hit W, then Control drag down, and you can kind of isolate certain sections of the guts, but I don't think we'll need to do that. So now let's make everything fit. The bones here need to be, yeah, they kind of follow the contours, right? So we'll just kind of stick those here. And you know what? Let's go in here with our move brush. Let's mask this, Control tap to invert that, Control tap to blur it, and we'll just push back there. What else we got? What else we got? What is this? Oh, our bones are still poking through. Good enough. Now, if we wanted to render this transparent, we could do it natively within ZBrush, obviously with the Redshift renderer and just assigning glass. We can also try, just as a quick thing, to go through here, and if you go to display properties, there's a BPR setting for transparent shading. Say yes, you want to turn transparency on, so now when you hit BPR, that will go ahead and render transparent. And now everything's laid out. We're running out of time, but we got pretty far today. Let's see. On a movie project of Volta Studios, it's common to use different render engines across scenes, so how consistent lighting, shading, and visual quality maintain. I've never worked for movies, but I think yes. Sometimes they share assets, sometimes not. If it's a production that wants, I mean, it's weird when you have like, I don't know. Honestly, I have no idea how much real overlap happens, but I would imagine they're probably all, usually when you set up a studio and you're really good and you have pipelines and workflows and talent that's used to something, you just use that. And as far as making it, you probably render it out so that you have plenty of information so you can go through, and when you do your color grading, that's when you can make everything match really well, even for VFX. But and also like USD formats, and they probably have, I mean, I'm sure they have guidelines so that when you go to render, you know, whatever renderer you're using, it can output the correct layers that it needs, compositing layers and bit depth and whatever standards that need to be set. You can work within those standards in order to get the bid, and then you render to those standards so that everybody can work a little bit better. But I really don't know. I'm just guessing. Just put it on 0.5. Is there a way to store masks in ZBrush if you want to keep working on a mesh part that doesn't change topology, but you need to mask and unmask and mask and so on? That's what I usually use something like polygroups for, but sometimes, you know, there's not enough. Let's do this. Duplicate this off. For instance, this is all one polygroup, right? And we're going to say dynamic apply. And I have a mask here. And if I always want to keep masking that area, if I put a polygroup there, I can hit W and Control tap it, and I got my mask ready to go. But again, not a ton of resolution, doesn't look great, and maybe I want to use polygroups for another reason. If you're not, here's one. If you're not using your Polypaint, what you can do is you can go through here and you can say paint with a color only, and you can go through here and be like, hey, I want to mask there, and I want to mask here, and I want to mask here. And then if you ever need to mask these areas, you should just be able to go in here to masking, mask by color intensity, and then if we turn off our Polypaint, oops, there you go, you're just masking based on your Polypaint. But maybe that doesn't work very well, or you can have a duplicate of, well, you can't really transfer masks very well. Well, that's one way. You can store masks in layers, so if you go in here to layers, you can say make a new layer, it's recording. You can go in here and mask, and you can mask, and then you can turn off the recording. And then when you turn this back on, your mask will pop back up. Go back into record. I don't know. I don't use masking in layers a whole bunch, but you can store masks. I guess you could also store a Polypaint in a layer, and then mask from that Polypaint, and then turn that off, and then it gets a little jumbly. What's another way you can do masks? You can, if you have UVs, you can bring in you can have a texture map, a texture applied. Yeah, but then you'd have to apply it to your Polypaint. But then you could transfer the Polypaint data, but then you're gonna have probably loss. I don't know. Anybody knows good masking techniques? Shout it out. Is there a way to use triplanar surface noise like you would in Substance Painter? Weirdly, the regular old noise, like if you're just using basic noise with 3D turned on, let's see, noise scale strength. This is kind of triplanar in a way. However, as soon as you go to something that's like in the noise plug, for example, checkerboard, you know, you're gonna get that skewing. No UVs, although this one seems to be working fine. Plug-in scale, there we go. Oh yeah, there it is. So that's when you get the kind of stretching on the sides, because it's kind of a planar projection based on how you came in on the object. Plug-in scale, 3D and UV is, oh, there's the UVs. I think 3D and UV is the only option. I don't know of a way to do triplanar noise in ZBrush, if there is one. Okay, so we got this. Now, as far as like, doing BPR and rendering this transparent, you can totally do that. We talked about that. Looks like we all, I'm going to just keep this bottom part resin. I think that'll work fine. Another thing you can do, I think, let's go ahead and save this. And we have our name catcher here at the top. There we go. I don't think we need this log stuff anymore, so we'll just go ahead and say delete all in that folder. Save as. Log visible 02. Save incremental. Let's go in here to render. Redshift render. We'll turn that on. Oh, I haven't updated Redshift. Hopefully it'll work. And then on this, we'll say glass for this one. And then we'll go back to skin shader. I don't know, let's try it. BPR. Oh wait. I didn't do mRGB. So only RGB, so it just filled that with white and then yeah, we'll let it go. What else? We got 4 minutes left. Like I said, there's resources in here for live streams and ZBrush What's New videos, onboarding, and then also my YouTube channel. Same stuff. It's just a little bit more difficult to navigate in here. Okay, great. So let's try that again. Glass. Alt-tap this subtool. M. Color. Fill object. Go back to Skin Shader 4. Now render. No. Yes. No. Hold on just a second. Let me see. Let me turn that off. Ah, I've got two sitting right on top of each other. I must have duplicated that at some point. Okay, we don't need that one. Ay, ay, ay. We don't need that guts bucket anymore either. Delete. Okay. Now? Hey, look at that. We got glass. So now, even got some refraction in there. So basically it would be go in, paint the brains, paint the guts, move stuff around so that it matches. And now we have our little live little doodad here. And I guess we got enough time to kind of go do that real quick. So I'm going to hide that real quick here. And let's do, so if I want to dynamic apply everything, I can go in here to Z plugin. There's a clean tool master, clean tool utility. We can say dynamic subdivision to DS all. Just hit that button. That'll go through and dynamically subdivide everything. This guts will hit Control D. I'm going to deflate those just a tad. Oh, and here's another thing too. If I want to move these guts around individually, probably easiest way to do that is go in here to brush, auto masking. I'm going to drop this subdivisions down to back to the subdivision, maybe level 2, and then say topological range, maybe 2. There is a topological brush. You can say B, M, T is move topological, just basically doing what I just did. And now you can go through here and say, hey, I want this gut to be looped here and this gut to be looped in here. And then that way you can kind of fix a little bit of those penetration issues since we kind of messed around. We did turn on self-collision, but it was on a flat plane that was dynamically thickened. So, obviously it's not going to do a great job. And it's not like I guess you could, if it was simple enough geometry, you could do physics simulation on like on the tubes here, and it would probably work okay-ish. But anyway, good enough. I don't know. Spend as much time as you want, moving stuff around, storytelling, and making sure everything looks just super sweet. So let's talk about this. So we're gonna go through here. We'll hit Control D to subdivide. If we want to polypaint this up, we can use this to our advantage. We can go through here. We can say we'll start with like a deep dark red, and we'll say what's my hotkey for that? I always forget. Control Alt Shift F. That is color fill object, and we'll say RGB. And then if I want to go through here and just paint the non-recessed areas, again we'll go back in here to masking, and we're going to say mask by cavity, or maybe mask by curvature here. And you can always go back in here with the mask adjust here, so we can say like reset this and apply. Maybe do this, apply, maybe do this, apply. It's kind of like running a levels on your masking. But yeah, that's not giving it to me. Let's see. Mask by curvature, smoothness, peaks and valleys. I mean, I guess there's not a lot there. You know what, we can do a mask. Now, there is a mask by AO in here that kind of works. And then you can go in here and again, just run your adjustment here. So that'll kind of do that. But I think there's also, oh, where is it? Is it a plugin? It's been a while. Or did they move it? Somewhere in here is a nicer AO. It's BPR AO. Oh, man. Mesh AO. Ambient occlusion is sculpt and paint on. Where is it? Z plugin ambient occlusion. How did I miss that? It's right there. There you go. So now you can compute probably a higher quality AO. But anyway, whenever you're looking for something, there's this guy named Michael Pavlovich. He's got a lot of ZBrush stuff on his channel. Some of it's all right. Some of it's not so great, but you can always go in here and you can do stuff like, hey, how do I make, you know, hair or anime hair or something like that. You can usually scroll down and find something relevant. Now, here we have this mask. If we want to, we can hold down Control-Alt and tap, and that'll tighten that up. That's all also in your mask section here. So we can go through here. You can basically sharpen mask, blur mask, all that good stuff. I'm going to Control-Tap to invert that. If I don't want to see my mask, I can turn that off temporarily. It's still there, but so now it'll just kind of mask the innards. Turn off View Mask, and then I can go in here with my paint. We'll make maybe a little more saturated, a little brighter, maybe a little more purpley. And then again, RGB, we'll turn our RGB intensity down, and we'll just kind of go through here and we'll kind of paint some lighter areas here. And then maybe in the recesses, now that I'm seeing this, I can Control-Tap to invert that. We'll turn off View Mask, and in the recesses, maybe a little more purple, purpley blue here. Go through here and you can kind of, maybe a little darker. Go through here and you can kind of, again, we're kind of painting AO. Also, if you want to go in here to your brush, there is texture, alpha and texture. You can go in here and say Polypaint mode. So if you want to do like a multiply, a lighten, darken, colorize, you can change your Polypaint mode, but I think I'll just keep it on normal. So we'll go through here, we'll put little purples into the recesses here. So we'll just kind of go back and forth, Control-Tap to invert that, turn off View Mask, go in here and just, we can start doing mottling and go through here and paint highlights, or, you know, kind of just put in a little bit of variation, put some oranges and pinks, and go get your brain reference. Not your brain reference. Leave your brain alone, but go see if you can find brains on the internet and see where it might be beneficial to kind of put some, you know, how, again, also a little bit of storytelling, like how long has this brain been sitting in this resin jar? Is it starting to age? Is it getting old? Is it getting sun bleached, you know, from being in classes all day and being taught? Is it made out of plastic or is it real? These are all things for you to figure out. But, and then again, if you want to go back in here and adjust all of this, we can go back in here. Now be careful because again, we have a material applied. So if you want to just go in here to your material settings and say, you know, I want to see that diffuse a little better, you can go in here and crank up that diffuse. We'll put that like 0.75 again. But you can also go in here to your Polypaint and say adjust colors, and this is where we can go in here and you can adjust, you know, a little more red, a little more purple, a little more saturated, or RGB intensity, saturation. Actually, I like that intensity. Maybe a little more reds, you know, intensity, RGB contrast. Yeah, something like that. Okay. Boop. There we go. So now we got brains painted, and et cetera, go through and paint the rest of the stuff here. If we want to knock this down and also kind of model a little bit, I'm going to tap C to sample. I'm going to go in here with my standard brush. We'll switch over to maybe an alpha let's do alpha 23. RGB intensity down. We can go through here and we can kind of just brush in this. And also for like veiny stuff, if you wanted to do like, oh, there's skin buildup, you can switch this to drag rect. We'll go back to like a veiny alpha 22. We'll drop in some purples, some dark purples here, maybe some dark blues, maybe some dark greens, who knows. And then we'll switch back to Alpha 23. We'll sample this, and this is where you can go in here and be like, you know what, on this one here, I want to do maybe, switch back to dot stroke. You know, we'll brush that back. So I'm going to go through here on these ones, and then maybe we'll go a little bit orangey on the back here. Maybe intensity down. And now you're getting like a little bit of skin buildup, a little bit of mottling, mottling, a little bit of breakup, a little bit of zones. You know, you can do cooler zones, maybe down here, and then warmer zones up on the top. I know, whatever your brain reference tells you, or whatever your heart tells you, your anatomical heart. Go through there. Beep, boop, beep. Solo mode off. There we go. So we got a little brain sitting in there. And then we'll turn everything else back on. Beep, boom, beam. These ones down here, let's go ahead and do a real quick. We don't need Polypaint materials. We just want straight up color, Polypaint color. Lead, it kind of looks, I just want like a basic, simple, or I guess aluminum's fine. This one here, M, color, fill object. This one here, color, fill object. And then we'll switch back to skin shader 4. Turn on perspective. Okay. New ZBrush and iPad streams would be a lot of fun to see on the stream. I'd have to buy an iPad first. And also, and it's like, oh good, now I have 13 inches of screen real estate. And now I have to have it, you know, and I don't know. It sounds like kind of a nightmare to me, but I don't know, maybe I'll get around to it at some point. Why ZBrush didn't implement a PBR system instead of BRP? I'm not sure. I mean, it would be totally cool to have like a physically based, you know, Polypaint system and material system. But I mean, they make ZBrush. They know better than I do. But let's move this around a little bit more. I'm not sure. Probably implementation would be difficult. I'm guessing. That is me. That is my channel. I'm gonna tell you about my channel. Why not? Cool. So yeah, and then again, just go through and I guess just real quick. Sorry, I'm keep dragging this out, but just so you can kind of get a sense. We'll go through here. We'll say fill. We'll make this blue. We'll make this. Oh gosh, I keep forgetting to hit the right button combinations. Yeesh. There we go. This is kind of bones. The bones are his money. So are the worms, I think. That's how the song goes. Got kind of like a purple gray for these little things. Orange for these things back here. And again, you can hit D for dynamic if you're not going to be sculpting on them. Also looks like those scooched a little bit. And this is just going to look obviously very cartoony, which is okay. Let's do smooth. Yeah, I guess we got 4 on there. You know what, we'll sample this. But again, all you got to do just for a little bit of nuance, just go through here and, you know, mask by cavity, or something really simple. Just go through here with like a bright red RGB intensity down a bit. And just go through here and just paint in some gradients. So like highlights, shadows, maybe a little bit of more purpley vein stuff in here. These are like a dark kind of purple here. And if it's just a color fill, it's okay. But if you can, just do a little bit of, I want to say like baked in lighting, but just a little bit of nuance. Just something to give give the audience a little bit of, like, oh, there's a little bit of color going on, a little bit of interest. The bones too are just kind of sitting there all plain, right? So we'll subdivide those. And even if it's just something as simple as like, and we'll sample this, we'll drop that down a little bit, go in here a little bit more saturated. And on the back here, maybe it transitions to something lighter. And then on the ends here, I don't know, maybe a little more yellow color or something like that. Like just something to just break it up just a little bit. Same thing for the eyeballs even. We just say, you know what, for these, I wonder if we do a, yeah, let's try it. Let's go in here to toy plastic. Actually, it might work for all these. M. Let's try it. Color. I'm just going to put this up here. Fill object. Fill object. Fill object. Oh, we got our little booger back here. That's kind of like an off yellow. Oops. Off yellow. Yeah, and then these back here. This could just be painted detail here. So again, if we sample this and then go to like a yellow, let's go through here. It looks like it's got, let's say dynamic apply, Control D. It's got like ribbing. So RGB turned on. It's got like this kind of look. And then also maybe C sample, maybe a little darker, a little more red. And then on the bottoms here, drop that RGB intensity down. We could like just dial in. Again, just a little nuance goes a long way. So now, oh yeah, eyeballs. So I'm going to say sample this. I'm going to do a little bit brighter white here on the front. And then for our eyeball here, I can't see if I'm selecting. Yes. On this one here, this has been dynamically applied. Yes, good. Good. We're going to say sample this. We'll do a little more green, a little more saturated down here on the bottom. They'll kind of highlight it up. And then on the top here, we'll go a little more purple, a little darker, and put in a little fake shadow. So just a little dab will do ya. And then we'll turn everything else back on. And then hopefully this will be a little bit nicer looking. How do transfer masks made from a mesh? Oh, that I'm not entirely sure. You can, there is a, I forget what it's called. Mask plugin. Intersection masker. So if you have two objects and they're on top of each other, you can mask where they intersect, but there's not a transfer a mask from one to the other. Now you can transfer a polypaint and then do polypaint by intensity or mask by intensity, which we did earlier in the live stream. But then again, now you have to have two different types of polypaints. Yeah, layers. Yeah. So we did talk about that a little bit. So basically going, oh, that's when we duplicated this off. Now I remember. Just a real quick, let's turn this off here. So here we have an object. And we have a mask. If you can use Polypaint, you can transfer Polypaint easily. Just history project or Z project. Or hell, even if it has UVs, you have a texture map you can import and then texture to Polypaint if you wanted to. But it would be something like, this is white color, and then go in here with an RGB, and then you can just use our RGB intensity. So mask by color. Oh boy, we got everything open, huh? Mask by color, mask by intensity. So now when you turn this off, you will have your mask set where your Polypaint intensity is. And you can transfer Polypaint easily. So if you can transfer Polypaint and you're not using Polypaint for anything else, use that to transfer your masks. Transferring it from layers, which again, if you go in here and you say, create a new layer and then record any masking that you're doing and then stop recording, you can maintain that mask. Kind of, but I don't know. I don't use that a ton. Cool. All right. Thanks, everybody. Catch you on the flip side. And have a good rest of your week.